If you've got spring fever, Lowe's has the cure. During Springfest, make your landscape stand out with 3 free bags of Miracle-Gro 3/4 cubic foot garden soil when you buy 3. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances to keep clothes, food, and dishes fresh all season long. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 4/22 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
I'm Gary Birtles, one of the old gits from a long time ago. You've got to tune into Tricky Talks, I believe, so just do it. All the best.
Robertson, the first time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robertson do. And still Robertson, getting his shot in, and a goal! Robertson!
Welcome along to the Tricky Talks podcast. Forest reached their first European semi-final in 42 years with a 1-0 win over Porto. Kate and Mollo are here as well to discuss the game and look forward to a crunch game on Sunday against Burnley. How are you, Kate? Have you recovered from... it's now the afternoon after the night before, isn't it? So have you recovered?
Like, somebody predicted a 1-0 win and was asked if, she really believed that could happen. And yet, I think it might have done. So I had a great night.
I don't recall anyone predicting a 1-0 win. Not at all. Mollo, how are you? You enjoy the game on the occasion?
Enjoys a stretch, but I enjoyed the occasion and enjoyed that first 10 minutes when, for some reason, one of their guys apparently did some crazy kung fu trip, which thank goodness they didn't have 11 men in the second half. So very much so. Great atmosphere as well.
We'll get onto the game in a moment, but just want to touch on Elliot Anderson before we start that, and obviously the tragic news that his mother passed away on the morning of the game. And as a podcast, we send our condolences to Elliot and his family and wish them all the best. Very sad news, Kate, and I know you wanted to say something along those lines as well.
Yeah, I feel as someone who lost their mum at an earlier age than most, and not as early as Elliot Anderson has, but still earlier than most, that I really do empathise with what he and his family are going through. It's a horrible, horrible time. And I saw his tribute today on Instagram, and it was really, really moving, and the things that he was putting and the things that he was thinking really, really resonated with me. And and a lot of that has stayed with me in terms of him saying, how much she gave them as a family and how she'll always be with them. These things are really important and, seem really, really genuine and heartfelt from the whole family. And when I saw the shirt that said, I think it said, "Family first, we are all with you," I really felt that that's so important. And, as a team, they seem incredibly together and incredibly supportive. And as a fan base, I think everybody is absolutely on the same page with that in terms of, everybody just wants him to be okay and wants him to know that we're all absolutely behind him and whatever he needs. And, Forest has got me through some tough times over the years, that Forest family, that community that we are all a part of. And I very much hope that as a family, the whole Anderson family are feeling that right now. And certainly from us and from me, we want them to know that's where we're coming from. Just take care of yourselves and we're all here if you need us. So, yeah. And also a quick mention to Peter Tatton's family. Peter Tatton was the name of the guy that died after the Porto game, and his picture was also placed up on the big screen. And I thought, again, their family are going through a loss at the moment. that they also were a part of that Forest family. So I just really wanted to say that for me it's been really important, and it's there for those people and anyone else, I guess, that's experiencing that right now.
Yeah, some nice words, Kate, and you're right. It is absolutely family first always, isn't it? And it's nice to see the Forest family sticking together. And when the goal went in, I said to Danny, I'll really hope they're going to find an Elliot Anderson jersey from somewhere to hold up. And they did. And that didn't surprise me, to be honest, knowing how close that family are. Forest have been close as a team, I think, for a few years now. And there was nothing else you could say. You kind of feel for the Anderson family, of course, and we know the players do as well, because Gibbs-White gave an interview at the end of the game and they started to talk about Elliot Anderson at the end of the interview, and he got very emotional over it. So you can see how much it means to the players, and that kind of togetherness, sticking to a family first ethos can only be a good thing for Elliot and his family all round, but the Forest family in general, and Peter and his family as well. Right, on to the game then. Forest, as I said at the top of the show, they've reached their first semi-final in 42 years. And I think let's just take a moment to think about that, because as we've all grown up as Forest fans, and yeah, we probably have experienced that 42 years ago, but it's a feeling we've not been able to say that for so long, have we, Mollo? That how does it feel to know that we're in the semi-final of a major European competition?
Yeah, it feels very good. I think it's worth mentioning, obviously, it's a European competition, first semi-final for 42 years. But something that crossed my mind last night was it's our third semi-final in the last 4 years since we got promoted, I think. In both cup competitions and now Europe. But let's not fall at this hurdle, hopefully, because our semi-final record is not fantastic, is it, across our history, especially with FA Cup. So I'm hoping very much we can break that duck in terms of the Europe, what was the UEFA Cup. But yeah, it's a very nice feeling and very much deserved yesterday, albeit we had that huge stroke of good fortune, bad thuggery, if you want to call it that, which helped us out hugely. So I'm not complaining. Sometimes, and you need that bit of luck, and it came our way.
Well, let's start with that bit of thuggery then, as you call it, because it was absolutely gruesome. I know it was right in front of where you were, Kate, so you probably got a really good view of it. But it immediately became apparent quite early on that when they started showing the replays, and as Chris Wood was being treated, that needed further investigation. It was so clear and obviously a bad tackle. And you saw the stud marks down the side of Wood's knee when he actually went down before he went off. But we feel for Chris Wood, but it was a turning point in the game, wasn't it? For sure.
It was, and like you say, it was right in front of us. And I think people that were further out and didn't have that view of it were probably thinking, it'll not get given, or was it, is it, isn't it? And yet we were all saying that was awful. Like, from the moment it happened, everyone around us was going, that was really bad. That was an awful, awful challenge. So we were sort of right from the first second going, that has to be a red. He's going to go, right? He's going to go. And obviously the ref didn't give it initially, did he? So we were all like, our first few seconds were like, that was terrible. No, this has to be looked at. This has to be looked at. And I think as soon as we saw all the people in my area, it come up on the screen that they were going to VAR it, we were pretty confident that he was going to get sent off, because we had such a good view of it, and it just looked hideous. And sometimes they go down and they roll on the floor, don't they? And you think, yeah, very clever, they'll get up in a minute, or they're playing for it. But you knew that was nasty. So yeah, we were pretty confident if they VAR'd it, he would get sent off, and obviously he did. And that was celebrated like a goal, wasn't it, when he got sent off?
Yeah, it was so obviously going to be a red card. It was either that or nothing, and that could, because it's not like the ref could have turned around and given a yellow.
No.
But it was as the commentary was ticking along, it just became more apparent. And as long as he went, I'm surprised it even went to the monitor, to be honest with you. But even then, I was pretty confident that it was going to be a red. And the moment the referee looked at the back of and to get the shirt number, even then you just knew it was going to be a red. And he was explaining to the player why. To be fair, the ref. But that was a significant turning point, which culminated in that Gibbs-White goal a few minutes later, Mollo, wasn't it? Tremendous response to take advantage of that 10 men.
Oh, yeah. First half, apart from there being a sending off, it was almost like the same as the away leg, but in reverse. Because we could have been, well, let's be honest, should have been 3 or 4 up by half time. 2 simple headers, shots from all over the place that were just going straight at the keeper. It was deja vu, wasn't it, from what we've had this season and what happened out in Porto with the Porto players missing loads of chances. And what a keeper they've got, by the way. I really didn't want it to go penalties because he was, as you'd expect for a Portuguese international, he was very, very good. And it was one of those by half time. We really wanted to be more than 1 up because we deserved it. I felt like the chances we were missing were the sort of chances that Chris would have scored if he'd have been on the pitch on some of those. But obviously, that assault on him had taken him out of the game as well as the guy sent off. And the 2 headers in particular right in front of us, as they went, it was one of those where you see it and you think, this is a goal. And then both of them missed the target, one over the bar, one wide. And you think, oh no, is it not going to be our day? But thankfully, with the rattling of the bar in the second half a couple of times, and credit to Porto, second half, they looked like the team with the extra man. We were struggling. We sat understandably. We defended what we had. I don't know why, but Stefan Ortega just inspires me with some sort of confidence. He's got a semi-arrogance about him that you don't think he's ever going to get beaten, does he? He's a very good keeper, obviously.
Save was just...
Yeah, superb. And that was in the first couple of minutes they nearly scored again. And yeah, without a doubt, the sending off changed the game. But at the end of the day, yes, it's a bit of luck, but it was like you say, if you're stupid enough to make a tackle like that, that's what's going to happen. And we held out, and it all went really well in the end, so to speak. And there's lots of players played really well. I'm sure we'll talk about it in a minute. But I felt like, it was a game where we didn't take our chances. They kind of fed off that a little bit, just like we did over there. And second half, they were probably the better side. And ultimately, all that matters is we got through, and semi-final, here we go.
Well, that's what I was going to say, actually. It, for all the dominance that Forest had in the first half because of the man advantage, it did highlight their shortcomings in front of goal, didn't it, Kate? I know Jesus had a couple of efforts and it was a lot of nice football around the penalty box, but the moment they got near the goal, Chris Wood obviously wasn't on the pitch any longer and he was rusty anyway, and it did kind of highlight those shortcomings a little bit, didn't it? And that continued into the second half as well, but... And Porto, to a certain extent, allowed Forest to play, given the man advantages they had. But it was still a great finish from Gibbs-White in terms of finishing off a nice move. But how I won't say concerned, but were you confident at that point that the game was going to continue to work in Forest's favour?
First half, I was confident. And I think, to be fair, their keeper made some amazing saves. And a lot of keepers wouldn't have got to all of those, and that would have meant that, we would have got at least another one. Second half, I just felt we didn't really adapt to them and how they were playing, and I felt what I've felt many, many times before, that they just wanted to pass it into the back of the net. It was touch after touch after touch. It was backwards, sideways again quite a lot of the time. We'd get near the box and then somebody wouldn't take the man on and they wouldn't release the shot, so then they'd go out, and it just, you were just like, come on, somebody put your laces through it, have a go. But I don't know why, I just had a weird, unlike me sense that it was gonna be okay. And the nerves did jangle a little bit really, really towards the end when they did the 5-minute stoppage, I thought, if it's going to happen, it's going to be now. Because that would be just a classic Forest story. But even so, like my little 11-year-old was sat next to me, and he was like watching between his fingers, going, because he suddenly realised how, you know, monumental it was, and that made me laugh, because he gets that from me, and I didn't really feel it quite as intensely yesterday. But then, yeah, when that whistle blew, just, it doesn't matter how you get there, does it? We're in a semi-final, guys.
I don't know whether you've seen the game back yet. I know you haven't, Mollo, but Glenn Hoddle was making me laugh in the first half, because for all the momentum and the goal that Forest had, he was saying, if Forest could get a second here, they're so dominant, the tie could be over, and if they get a second, they could get a third, and then they could start to take players off and rest players. And this was after about 20, 25 minutes, and so he was getting a little bit carried away, and I thought that was quite amusing, because, to be fair, he did a pretty good job with Darren Fletcher throughout the duration of the game, but he seemed to be getting carried away on that crest of a wave along with the rest of the ground, so I thought that was quite amusing. But there was always going to be a period of play where Porto came into it slightly. We didn't see that in the first half. We saw it more in the second half, and I think that was because they adjusted their tactics slightly and Forest didn't react. And I think that's why we saw Porto create some good opportunities in that second half. They hit the woodwork twice, was it? I think so. They were consider themselves unfortunate. Having said that, though, I wasn't really worried either. I don't know whether you were, Mollos, in there watching, but it was tense and you could feel it. But Forest were giving as good as they got. You had one opportunity, I think, that Porto hit the woodwork, and Forest went up straight up the other end immediately, and I think it was Dominguez put a shot narrowly wide. So it was almost like two heavyweight fighters going at it, wasn't it?
It was too basketball-y at times in the second half. I think...
Basketball-y? I've never heard that word before.
Well, end-to-end, like basketball style.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And it just felt like it was classic Forest. You know, I think... I read some criticism, but I thought Vitor did exactly the right thing, bringing on another centre-back. I tell you what, as well, we saw exactly what we want to see from Morato. Win your headers, win your tackles, keep it simple. When you've got the ball, job done. His time on the pitch, I don't think he put a foot wrong, did he? But that said, those breaks you're talking about, Simon, I don't know how it looked on telly, but because it was right in front of us, they completely messed one of them up, didn't they? Where they hit the one where they absolutely smashed the bar. I don't know how he missed that, and I was thinking that's when I thought this could be our night, because somehow they'd managed to break and they'd kind of flooded over our midfield, and they brought on, I can't remember his name, but they're number 7 and number 8 trying to overload on Nico's side. So Nico had his hands full. When he made the change, it took Nico a little bit wider and nullified the threat of, ironically, Williams, Gomez, and whoever the other guy was. Gomez. And I think tactically, when we did reacted well. Unfortunately, we had a couple of 3 injuries of what would normally be starters. Obviously, Hudson-Odoi, Murillo, who knows how long that'll be, because he's kind of bionic, isn't he? He tends to come back. But you know my thoughts on Murillo. As much as he might not win the player of the season, I think he's our most important player in terms of when he doesn't play, we look very leaky compared to when he does play. And then, of course, Chris Wood is potentially going to be out again for a little while.
You know you need fiber for a healthy gut, but do you actually know how to get it? Quaker's been serving up fiber since 1877, with over 100 great-tasting, good source of fiber options to choose from. Whether you like old-fashioned oats, instant oatmeal, granola, or oatmeal squares, Quaker makes it delicious. So good. Get your fiber with Quaker. Shop Quaker's good source of fiber products at a store near you.
Predator Badlands, now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
Here, you're not the predator. You're the prey. 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 Prey.
Critics are saying it's epic, stunning, and breathtaking.
Many have come here. None have survived.
Predator Badlands, now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+, rated PG-13.
Credit to Porto, though. I think, a few of us in A Block actually clapped them off when they came, and the Forest players made a bit of a tunnel for them, didn't they? A bit like end of a rugby match, and clapped them off. And a few of us in A Block clapped them off as well, because I thought they, apart from a bit of diving around, which you're going to get in every game nowadays, they gave it everything with 10 men, and it didn't look like they had 10 men in the second half. And they got some really good players, and the arrogance of how far we've come against a European heavyweight, let's not forget. To hear one of the lads saying, "Oh, we should sign that lad on the right. He's decent," and you're thinking, "Yeah, he's one of their best players for Porto." Are we that big a club now that we can think of that? That's brilliant thought, isn't it? Because they were very lively on that right hand side. Nico certainly had his hands full for about 20 minutes or so in the second half. He was on his own there most of the time, dealing with two, and as always, Nico just got on with it and dealt with it pretty much. But it nearly cost us, didn't it? But thankfully it didn't. And I'll say it again, we've got a semi-final to look forward to. And nice cheap tickets to go at Villa as well.
Yeah,
if it makes you feel any better, Mollo, Pereira said that both Chris Wood and Murillo he expects to be available for Sunday for selection. The only one that they're concerned about really is Callum.
Yeah, he didn't look happy when he came off, did he?
No,
he
didn't.
Had that. I hope this isn't the case, but he had that. That's my season done with only a month or so left. Face. I really hope that's not the case, because he really, my thoughts on him as a footballer generally. Anyway, he's a terrific player and he looks after the ball so well. But we haven't got anyone. We've got plenty of players who play that position, but we haven't got anyone quite like him. And I'd hate it if that happened. But prayers for Chris Wood as well, Chris Callum Hudson-Odoi as well. But let's hope he's fit for as soon as possible.
I want to expand on the injuries a little bit more, and in particular the one with Murillo, because I've got a bit of a bone to pick with Murillo, and I think I put it in the group chat that he got injured before Milenkovic came on and was actually signalling to the bench to come off. He signalled to the bench to come off when he did, but prior to that, he wasn't signalling to the bench. No. Yeah, he was clearly having a bit of an issue. And the commentators were saying it's up to the player to tell the bench that he can't carry on, and he was clearly struggling. The bench were not aware, and they put Milenkovic on when clearly he should have been a direct replacement for Murillo, and I had a bit of an issue with that because you could see he was struggling, and you thought, well, they've made one sub, they're going to probably have to make another sub shortly after that, and of course they did. Murillo did go off, but I did think that was an unfortunate lack of professionalism from him, in that he should have recognised the need to go off and let them know sooner than he did, to be fair, because he was clearly struggling. However, having said that, though, you mentioned it, Mollo, he is a bit of a bionic man, and he does have a habit of shaking these things off, doesn't he? So
yeah, can I jump in on that in his defence, because apart from the attitude of wanting to stay on the pitch, is brilliant. Obviously, that unfolded right in front of us, and he limped off literally right in front of us, and he started doing lunges and walking up in front of A Block to the halfway line and jumping, and he was like, "No, I think I'm all right." So I think maybe he didn't quite realise how it was, and I don't know what the injury was, or whether it could have been masked a bit by cramp as well, potentially. Who knows? But he genuinely, when he limped off, you're thinking, oh no. Then by the time he got to halfway line, walking up in front of the main stand, he was bouncing and jumping, and we thought, it's classic Murillo. He went off on the injury cart at West Ham and then came out for the second half and played a blinder. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's a very, very strong words to say unprofessionalism, but perhaps misplaced heroism would be better.
Yeah, okay.
Phrase.
Let's call it that then. As for the Wood injury, they commented on the TV that the internal damage was the main concern. You could see how sore he was from the outside, but it was any internal damage they were concerned about, and the fact that he went and sat on the bench and put some ice on it was a good sign, I think. It did look swollen, and it's a case of, if Pereira thinks he's going to be ready for the weekend, then hopefully they can get that swelling down fairly quickly. So, however, I wouldn't expect to see him personally. If he's kind of alternating between Jesus and Wood to start games, maybe it's Jesus' turn against Burnley, but
Never mind,
we'll
put
see.
the champagne on ice. Let's just put Wood on ice.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But thankfully, it wasn't. Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't the knee that Wood had an operation on. Thankfully, it was the other one. So at least it wasn't a recurrence of that. And as for the Callum Hudson-Odoi one, you're right. It did have the look of a season-ending injury, with the fact that he was really struggling. He was seen on crutches after the game as well, and he was putting his hands over his eyes with his jersey, almost as if an admission that it was quite a bad one. So that's the main one I'm concerned about more than anything else, because it'd be a bad miss if he is out for a prolonged period of time. But we'll wait and see on that one. Any other individual performances that you guys want to pick out? Because I think, to a man, they played well as a whole, didn't they? I don't think anybody had a bad game, but were there any outstanding performances that you wanted to highlight, Kate?
So I think it was a genuine team performance. I wasn't particularly championing anybody to go off or anybody to come on and replace, really, which just goes to show you how comfortable and confident they were making us feel. And they did have the man advantage, so they absolutely should have been. But I did have a moment where I even thought Sangare was having a good game.
Molo probably shut his eyes, didn't he?
Yeah.
No, do you know what? When obviously we had that extra man, which helps a bit. But when he's making those forward drives and forward passes, I'm thinking, that's the guy we want to see week in, week out. Not Mr. Backwards, sideways, bounce off your head in at like a 50p direction, all that sort of thing. And So that's what we want to see more of, isn't it? He was solid. They were all, I'd say, you've hit the nail on the head there a bit, Kate. I thought they were all kind of 7 out of 10, weren't they? Nobody was particularly above that, and nobody was below it. I thought you could go through the whole team, but it's worth mentioning when we had the extra man, how effective, not because of it, but how well the two wingers were playing as well in terms of finding space. Obviously, slightly different for one of them, but I thought Hutchinson was pretty effective as well, albeit didn't quite get that final ball where we wanted it to be towards the end, but he was dangerous and was opening things up. I think it's worth one person, as well as two players who get a lot of criticism, I'd like to say did a good job. One, I've already said, Morato didn't put a foot wrong, and that's the centre-half anyone who knows anything about football knows he could be, if that makes sense. That microcosm last week where he made that fantastic challenge in the penalty box, took a couple of yards and then messed up the 7-yard pass. It's like, come on, you did the hard bit, So we know he's got it in him, and I can see why we persevere. But yeah, Cunha, it was like, and this is something you can't unsee. On the ball and the way he moves, I swear he's just Gareth Williams. I know Gareth Williams was a midfielder, but his gait, his running style, the class he shows on the ball, all of that on the ball as a defender is impressive. But also what was lovely, I know they're a European side, but he didn't get pushed around. He was physical when he needed to be, won his headers. And, I forget how young he is now, but he's another very young player, isn't he? And he's one, I think, for the future, but I would say the near future. Whereas someone like Morato, he's still got a few rough edges to knock off, hasn't he, so to speak? And if he sticks around long enough, to be fair. Whereas Jacques Cunha is more of a Rolls Royce of a defender, isn't he, potentially? Now, defensively, that's the big thing, isn't it? He didn't really have that much of a challenge for a lot of the time last night, but time will tell, because there's always that Wrexham game in the back of my head where letting the ball bounce, missing tackles and all that, but that was just, everybody can have a day like that. So fair play. I think Jacques Cunha was very, very good, and obviously everyone else in the back four was good as well. Nico was, as usual, never drops below 7 out of 10, does he? And drove us forward at times as well, to be fair again.
Yeah, you mentioned Sangare, Kate, and I'll let you pick up again in a moment. But Molo mentioned about seeing those driving runs from Sangare, and there was one in particular in the second half where he drove forward, and it took 3 Porto defenders to stop him, and I think he just ran out of room in the end. But it was great to see, wasn't it? And I'll let you carry on where the point you were trying to make earlier, Kate.
I just thought he had a really good game. He did all the things that he's good at. In that game, he was picking people's pockets. He was driving forward. There was a worry that they would boss the midfield. I think he really helped, as we've said before. He enabled lots of other people to play well as playing well himself. So yeah, he just caught my eye, and he doesn't often. So. So I thought, yeah, he's having a good game. And like you say, they all had a good game. Like, nobody was outstanding, but they all put in a solid performance and a solid team performance and won that game as a team. And I take the point that certainly in the second half, Porto were more on top, but I didn't feel that we were undeserving of that victory. Mm-hmm. I felt like the right team won on the night, and I don't think that the Porto fans can go home and think any otherwise. Like you say, they spurned their chances at their place, and they paid the price for that last night. But when I look back at the journey that we've been on so far, and the different types of games that we've played, the different kinds of performances, the different kinds of results, the really depressing ones, the really frustrating ones, the really amazing ones, it all culminates in winning that game last night and getting through to a semi-final. I can't stop smiling today. And it doesn't even bother me that it's against Villa. And maybe that's, and I know we'll come on to that, and maybe reality will set in, or nerves will set in at some point. But I love being the underdog. That is when Forest do their best work. And I think that's been proved a couple of times already in this competition, where we've been expected potentially to go out, and equally when we've been expected to absolutely cruise it and we haven't. So today I've just woken up with a big old smile on my face, and it's just stayed there all day, because Forest are in the European semi-final. We are.
Yeah, just want to say a final thing on the Porto games that Forest have played, and there have been 3 of them. And overall, I would have expected more from Porto. And because they're a giant in European football, we know the pedigree that they have. And I'm looking at it and I think, are we doing Forest an injustice in the fact that I would have expected more from Porto, but maybe it was because it was Forest playing decent enough to stop them. And Forest deserve a lot of credit for that, I think, for holding more than holding their own over 3 games. They've played them 3 times, they've beaten them twice and drawn once. And that sort of, those 3 results can't be overlooked at all, can they, considering the pedigree Porto have had in European football. It's something that Forest can look back on with a great deal of pride, I think, the fact that it's their first season in European football for I don't know how long, and Porto were one of the favourites for the competition, and Forest have more than matched them, I think, haven't they, Molo? It's been a great learning curve for the club as a whole, both on and off the pitch, and to like I say, more than hold their own against Porto. They deserve a lot of credit for that, I think, and it's onwards and upwards. We'll talk about the semi-final in a moment, but just prior to that, have you got a Molo's moment to share with us? Or
do you know, I hadn't even thought about it today, because it was one of those, wasn't it? But I guess I think it's the turning point of the tie, isn't it? Before the sending off, when Ortega made that save, where he's gone down and he's put his hand up, and you're thinking, that's some save, that is. And we've gone up the other end, gone into midfield. They've decided to assault Chris Wood, and then that's gone our way. The goal obviously was a fantastic moment. The final whistle was quite a nice moment. I think I'm going to go with Ortega's save, because that kind of helped turn the tie in our direction. Because if that goes in, apart from being behind, does that tackle, well, too kind to call it a tackle, does that foul and red card ever happen? We'll never know, because you can't tell the future. But that's my moment. And I think I agree with what you say, Simon. Over 3 legs, we've matched them. We've come away with the results. They've played some lovely football across all 3 legs, but it's not quite at times in the first leg particularly been enough to breach us once in 3 games, isn't it? They've scored. And we've scored 4, 3 plus a fantastic OG. And, we had a bit of luck, and so you've got to take advantage of it, and we have done.
Right, Kate, who was your man of the match yesterday? Plenty of players to choose from, as we've already discussed, but who are you going to go for?
It's tough, isn't it? Because there's a big part of me that wants to go Ortega again, just because he really did keep us in. But I think I'm going to go for Morgan, which again, we do pick him quite a lot. Not just for the goal, although what a goal that was, but for the fact that once again it was a real captain's performance. You could see him inspiring, talking, encouraging, and playmaking. And so for me, he played the full 90, didn't he? And he's just our talisman. And Morgan Gibbs-White.
Yeah, I'm going to go there as well. And it wasn't an easy decision, but everything going forward did seem to flow through him. And I think partly the reason for that might have been the fact that they were down to 10 men as well. So, however, he still had to do a job, irrespective of how many players the opposition had. So, I'm going to give it to him as well. Molo, who are you going to go for?
He was certainly in my thoughts, and for the reasons you've mentioned, but to take your point a step further, it's one thing playing against 10 men, but you've got to be intelligent enough as a player to make that space, find those pockets of space, and he did that superbly. However, I'm going Jacques Cunha in the end, because I think we kept a clean sheet when we need to. Perhaps circumstances coming in after a month or so out perhaps have affected it slightly. I was a bit nervous for him because he's going to be a bit rusty. I don't think he hardly put a foot wrong. And imagine if, not that I want Milenkovic to leave or be injured or anything or get too old in a few years, but imagine if we managed to keep hold of those 2 Brazilian centre-halves in 2 or 3 years' time. Defensively sound, but wow, they're better than most midfielders they're better than our midfield on the ball, let alone anybody else's. They're fantastic.
I was going to ask you that question, actually. I mean, God forbid, hopefully, Jacques Cunha is not going to be a replacement for Murillo. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, of course, but how good would it be if those 2 play together? Two Brazilian centre-halves. Yeah. It takes me back to the 1982 World Cup when we were watching the likes of Socrates and all of that, with playing out from the back. But
also, the age they both are, I mean, let's be honest, we're probably not going to see Murillo at his peak in a Forest shirt. I'd love to, and I hope I'm wrong, but I personally, my feelings, I think he's not far off world class already. It says everything that he's had some criticism recently because he's misplaced a couple of passes despite being the guy that keeps the back door shut for us consistently. But I don't know, I'm quite excited now. I was really nervous about Jacques Cunha when he first got in the side, but now I'm seeing something thinking this boy can really play, and he seems to, be more and more solid. He won some good headers, didn't he, as well? Whereas in that game at Wrexham, he seemed to let it bounce or whatever. But fair play. Imagine if we'd had both of them when they're 27, 28. But probably isn't going to happen. Worst case scenario, we're going to get a shed load of cash for one or both of them somewhere down the line, I would suggest. So really exciting times.
Okay, so it is Villa in the semi-final, of course. Let's talk about that very briefly. We'll come on to a more detailed preview nearer the time. But initial thoughts, Kate, around... You said you don't care that it's Villa. I mean, for me, Villa are clearly the favourites to win the competition. They have been all along, and I haven't seen anything to change that. If anything's going to go in Forest's favour, though, it is being the underdog, isn't it? You say that's what they thrive on. But what are your early thoughts on facing Villa over 2 legs, having just played them in the Premier League already?
I just think that everybody is going to be expecting Villa to win. We go into that tie as massive underdogs, and I genuinely think that helps us. We go back to the old adage of, hope nobody's stupid enough to write us off, and this game and this tie is that personified, isn't it? and I think there'll be an element of Villa fans rubbing their hands together as well and thinking, yeah, we can do Nottingham Forest. Well, actually, we've come on a much more difficult journey to get to this point than they have. We've had to fight, I would say, harder at times than they have. And this is massive for us. I'm not saying it's not massive for them. It is, but just that, don't write us off, and like I say, come, walking through the turnstiles on the night at the City Ground, travelling down to Villa, of course the nerves will be there, and I'll look at all the stats and all the people telling, that we're going to lose. But right now in this moment, I'm so proud of them for getting there. And I feel like whoever it is, bring it on, because we're Nottingham Forest, we're in a semi-final, and I just believe that they'll give it everything they've got, and we can ask no more than that. So, yeah.
K-pop Demon Hunters, Haja Boys Breakfast Meal and Huntrix Meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
The fixtures, Mollo, though, are not favourable surrounding that Villa tie, because they've got sandwiched in between is Chelsea on the Monday night away. Is it Monday night or Monday afternoon? I can't remember, because it's a bank holiday, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Villa, so Villa are going to have a little bit of extra time. Yeah, I know. That's. I don't know whether you guys know, but that's the first time and only time this season a team competing in the Europa League or the Conference League has been scheduled to play in the Premier League on a Monday prior to a Thursday European tie. And you'd have thought they'd have given that some consideration when scheduling the games. But do you feel Forest have been hard?
They probably did give that consideration, Simon.
Well,
I think it's payback, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Do you think Forest have been hard done by with that kind of schedule? Villa play Spurs on the Sunday, so it's only 24 hours, but
that level makes a difference.
You don't think?
Yeah, no, at that level it makes a difference. That extra 24 hours, rest, recovery, and everything else that goes with it, and preparation. Which, they've done us up like a kipper there, haven't they, Sky? But I guess they've probably been waiting for this opportunity for a year or two now. What I'd say, I'd go along with most of what Kate says in terms of we'll give it a go, etc., etc. But there's two massive differences that make us much bigger underdogs than we were when we played them last week, and that's one, team sheet. They've got no pressure to rest players at all because they're safe. It's arguable. You could argue their easiest route to Champions League football now is to knock us out and win a final, whereas they're fighting tooth and nail to finish in the top five. So that goes against us hugely. And also, Villa Park is our kryptonite, isn't it? It has been for quite some time, and it's not somewhere. If we get a good result at home, or it's still close, and we have to go there and get a result, we can all say, put our red, rose tinted glass on, say, yeah, we can go there, we can do this. But in reality, the chances are slim. But a slim chance isn't no chance, is it? So we shall see. We've done stuff like that before. It was 2 years ago when we went up to Anfield. We didn't expect to be winning against a team that had won however many it was on the trot. So anything can happen. I just think if we're gonna, we need that slice of luck that we've been getting, and part of that luck for me involves a couple of suspensions or short-term injuries to some of their midfielders, because it was very noticeable once they got a couple of injuries in midfield beyond the ones they've still got, they started losing games. But as those midfielders came back, they started winning games. And I know he gets a lot of stick and he's Scottish, but John McGinn's some player, isn't he? And that midfield they put out against us the other week, it was like, whoa, So I'm going into each game same as everyone else. We're underdogs and treat it like almost like an FA Cup tie when we're in the Championship. Anything can happen. Those things I've already said go against us. And also, the other thing is, obviously, it being over 2 legs is not great because the quality in the end should shine through from whoever shows it.
I think about the history of Forest and semi-finals, and aside from the playoff semi-final against Sheffield United that they won at home, all of the other semi-finals that I can recall where they progressed to the final were they had the second leg away from home. I'm thinking Spurs in the League Cup, Coventry in the League Cup, Bristol City in the League Cup. Even the semi-final against West Ham of the FA Cup in '91 was away from the City ground, and those were the times where they managed to progress. Did I mention Coventry as well? Yeah. All of those.
Man United, we didn't. In our most recent one.
No, but they didn't get to the final, though, did they? So what I'm saying is where they've got to the final, the second leg has always been away from home because they've had that underdog mentality. And that's kind of what I'm hoping they're going to draw on, the history of winning semi-finals in the second leg away from home.
Never losing a European 2-legged game to a British team.
I think it's one of those things, isn't it? The smart money's on, is it Villa and is it Freiburg? I don't know how you say it. Being
Freiburg
in the final,
or Braga.
There's something about the idea of a Forest Braga final that just feels like, I don't know. I keep hearing people say written in the stars and things like that. Just the idea of getting another go at them would be something.
At least there be plenty of tickets available if we play Braga. All the neutral ones would be coming our way, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I mentioned at the top of the show it was our first semi-final in 42 years, and of course I'm referring to the Anderlecht game back in '84. And I don't know, Kate, whether you were old enough to go to that game, but
I don't get to say it very often, but it was a little bit before my time, Simon. I was 4 years old, so you have at it. I'm just going to sit here and feel young for 30 seconds.
I went to that game, Mollo. I don't know whether you did or not, but I remember sat in the Brian Clough lower, dead level with Steve Hodge as he dived for that second header to bullet into the Trent End net, and those two headers from Steve Hodge are probably two of my favourite goals of all time that are not final goals, if you see what I mean, because just the experience and the noise of the City ground on that particular night. And I think I've told you the story on the pod before, haven't I, around the second leg, when I was, because obviously I was only young and I was naughty at home and I wasn't allowed to listen to the game on Radio Trent, I think it was then, and I sneaked the radio under my pillow. I got sent to bed early, sneaked the radio and turned it on around the full-time whistle to find Forest were 3-0 down, and I heard Paul Hart's goal go in, and obviously we all know what happened there, but that was my memories of that, is being told off and sent to bed early and not being allowed to listen to the second leg. But
I remember being devastated, and I remember before the second leg making plans with someone we both know, Ray, to go to the final, and how his dad was going to take us and all this sort of thing, because we were only 10. So cheating so-and-sos. But we would have battered Spurs. They were not a patch on us back then, were they? It's so frustrating. But anyway, hopefully, we know that we won't have the same problem with the referee. I mentioned for the ref last night, by the way, I forgot to say that. He was consistent, very consistent in terms of, I don't think a lot of the fouls he gave were fouls, but it was for both teams. So fair play.
Yeah, I thought he was decent. Right, prior to all of that, of course, we've got another crucial game against Burnley. And what are the big question marks for you, Kate, coming into the game? We don't need to go into the game in detail in terms of tactics, because we know Forest have got to do. We know Burnley are struggling. But what are the key indicators to you in terms of what will enable Forest to get a positive result? Are you concerned by the injuries, for example?
Not as concerned about the injuries as I am about the reverse psychology of being an underdog. This is exactly the kind of fixture that classically Forest mess up, isn't it? The one that should be a guaranteed banker of 3 points. And when you look at the fixtures we've got coming up, how many than would you like to be just Burnley over and over again? And yet, you feel like that there is, every possibility that they'll mess it up somehow. I feel less like that today than I did yesterday, because we do seem to now be stringing together a little bit of form. And, if you're going to do it, let's do it now when we're in a relegation battle. Let's be a team that are coming together and getting some results again by hook or by crook. So mostly I am confident that we will get 3 points against Burnley, but there is always that little niggle in the back of your mind that it's Nottingham Forest, it should be guaranteed, and therefore we'll find a way to muck it up. But I try and bat those thoughts away when they come and think actually 3 points would be the perfect end to a perfect week.
It would. 3 points would be great, because I'm bringing my brother up for the game on Sunday, and that's his first game he's going to be able to attend since he had a stroke about a year ago. So he's really looking forward to that, and I hope he doesn't come all that way. It's going to be a hard day for him travel-wise, but hopefully he'll get some reward and see a Forest win, because that will put the icing on the cake for him. Molo, any thoughts on you in terms of the game? Are you concerned about the injuries? Are there any players that you definitely would or wouldn't pick for this one?
I sound like a stuck record, but it's possibly got a bit of a Yatesy / Dominguez, one of them being involved, doesn't it? Especially with potentially losing Callum. It's a tough one, because you look at Burnley's results and they've not been winning many, but they've got some good draws along the way, and they haven't been getting battered on the whole. I think they lost 3-0 to Sunderland a month or two back, but they've been in most of the games. They're just not quite good enough. Well, I think it's an old cliche, but an early goal would make all the difference for us. Because it's like we were saying last night, imagine if we hadn't have scored so early on after their 10 men and it carried on. So it's a bit of that, isn't it? They're not a bad side. I don't feel better about the injuries. What I mean is I feel better about the fringe players that are likely to come in for them. We've got, I think, I'll probably get slaughtered for saying this, but I think we can see now there's a player in Backwell for sure, albeit his first corner wasn't very good, and his corner taking has been very good. He was dangerous last night. His final ball wasn't always there, but he looked dangerous. It is what it is, isn't it? We know Burnley will come to frustrate, to keep it a 0-0 for as long as possible, and the crowd were brilliant last night. Am I confident they'll be brilliant if it's 0-0 after 40 minutes? Not so much, but we'll see. Hopefully they will, because a win on Sunday, it would cap off a really good week in terms of results for us, and also it would put us in a nice position depending on other results, but ultimately they won't matter if we win. Nervous is like, on the day I'll be nervous, but I'll be screaming and shouting and singing and whatnot. I won't be moaning at players for making mistakes or shooting it straight at the keeper or whatever. There'll be none of that, but I might be one of some. That's why I'll rephrase that. There might be people that are a little bit the other way if we don't score early. I mean, there's even someone moaning. I mean, I haven't seen him there before, but a couple of rows back last night, moaning with about 10 minutes to go. I'm like thinking, is he telling Callum Hudson-Odoi to get up when he was, when he went down? Go, get up, and giving him, don't get up, you. I'm like, is he for real? And then Callum Hudson-Odoi did get up and limped back. And like you say, I hope it's not, but it looks like it could be an injury that keeps him out for a while. So, in those circumstances, there are some fans out there that, unless we're 2 or 3 up inside half an hour, aren't going to be right behind us. But I hope very much that atmosphere we had last night and the positivity can transfer onto Sunday. I think we'll come out all guns blazing, and if Burnley can handle that and keep it a 0-0, it'll be a tough ask, because they're not a bad side.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going to be Seatman 2 then, if you're going to be singing all game.
No. I'll join in with singing. I'm not doing sing solo.
Yeah. Of the other relegation candidates, Leeds have got Wolves at home. Leeds, after their result against United the other day, are in a really strong position to almost get to the point where another win or win and a draw would secure safety. They've got Wolves at home, so you've got to think Leeds are strong favourites for that. West Ham have got Palace away, whose priorities now are going to be clearly on the Conference League. However, maybe their momentum from winning over in Italy will carry forward to this weekend, and they'll put in a decent performance. And then the big one is obviously Spurs at home to Brighton, which is going to be a really, really hard game for them, I think, given the form that Brighton are in at the moment. So all eyes are going to be on that one for sure. We'll see.
Wouldn't it be lovely to see Spurs stranded?
Yeah, possibly after this weekend. Right, coming to the end of the show then, any final thoughts, Mollo, before we draw to a close?
Keeping on, and just everybody get behind them for the full 90-odd minutes on Sunday.
Yeah, anything from you, Kate?
Just the same, really. The atmosphere was great last night. Really good, really loud, really proud, singing, getting behind the lads. So, yeah, let's keep that up till the end of the season, everyone.
Absolutely. Right, we'll be back next week with a review of the Burnley game, and we'll also look forward to a Friday night fixture against Sunderland, which I think's next week as well, isn't it? So long trip for you guys if you're going to go up there for that one on a Friday. So we'll speak to you next week, and thanks everyone for listening and watching, and we'll catch up again very soon.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's OmniShade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.